Last week, there was one morning around breakfast time where I was doing what one does, getting breakfast ready and clearing away, and I was unloading our dishwasher, putting away cutlery and other dishes, and I put a pile of forks and knives up on the counter to put into the drawer. And suddenly I looked, and there was my 5-year-old son starting to load them by himself. Didn't ask him, didn't do anything. He's putting all the cutlery away in the right place. It made me very happy and proud. Good boy. So at our parsha this week, God commands the children of Israel, He lets them know it's time to build a tabernacle, the tent for God, a dwelling place that they carried around with them in the desert. And they were asked to give b'nidivat lev. They were all asked to give with a voluntary heart. However, they felt moved with the inclination of the heart, the willingness of the heart. And that's how you construct a home for God, a dwelling place for God. It has to come from that willingness. A place for all their communal aspirations, for their gathering, for what they were to do. And they do. And the Torah says that the architects received the gifts that the people were giving, and they brought it over to the tabernacle for the others to see the gifts that the Israelites had given. But then the people continued to give, and they continued to give, and they continued to give, bringing free will offerings, more, as Torah says, morning after morning after morning, until Moses is informed the people are giving too much. They're bringing more than is needed to complete the tasks entailed and everything that Adonai has commanded us to do. There was more than enough. So the commentators ask, well, why don't they just not say anything, allow the donations to keep piling up? You could always use some spare supplies, make supplies. And the answer, of course, it would not have been right. But it really is an amazing moment, especially coming after last week. We read about the golden calf. When Moses was late coming down off of Mount Sinai, and all the children of Israel were waiting for Moses to come down. And at a certain point, when he was late, they turned to his brother Aaron and said, "Where is that man Moses? Make us a god, because that man Moses is no longer here." And according to tradition, Aaron, who was just trying to delay them, said, "Well, give me all of your gold," thinking they would never give it. But they did. And immediately people took off all their jewelry and gave them all gold. And soon enough, there was a golden calf, and they started to worship it. And all the people felt to their lowest instincts at that moment. One of the memorable stories in the Torah. Yet so often, when we're reading our books, we read about often the failings of the people, their narrowness, their smallness, the limitations of being a human being that we all know so well. What we call the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, or the not-so-good inclination. And rarely do we read about the Yetzer Tov, the good inclination, the good part of people. And this is what they accomplished in this moment. The people left to their own inclination, their own nediva, their own willingness, their voluntary openness. They gave more than enough for the construction of the tabernacle. And the architects didn't even have to ask more than once. And perhaps it was because they were apologetic because of what happened with the golden calf. Perhaps it was because they were grateful that Moses came down with a second set of tablets after breaking the first in his anger. And perhaps they were just suddenly infused with a spirit of giving. But it doesn't really matter, because they were transported to do great good in that moment, and they were carried away with it. And the Torah took note of this moment. And the Torah wanted to show us that this happened, and wanted us to also take note. And that it wasn't all bad. And the children of Israel were also amazing and incredible and generous and wonderful, as people often are. They gave. The commentator, the Tur HaAruch, who's a late medieval commentator, he exclaims, the Torah wanted to flatter the children of Israel and to praise the honesty of the architects and the artisans, because they too didn't pocket any of the additional materials. Everyone was deserving of praise. The accountants themselves stopped counting what was needed when it reached the right moment. And so within all the troubles and shortcomings that we know too well, people also do rise to the occasion. And they rise to have a generous heart without asking for much. And they find good instincts. They find their good instincts with good instincts. And we always remember all the problems with our family members, with our loved ones, with our not-so-loved ones, our nation, our world, our people. But do we remember the good? And when they went above and beyond without even asking? And which is more important? And do we record this in our books as our good book did? And how can we keep note in our heart as we do of the other side? And the human beings can be incredible. And in the school of life, there are also moments when the lessons are learned and done. They're learned, and some moments where you can just say, it's not a school at this moment. I can just rejoice and celebrate and live with joy and love. Shabbat Shalom.